Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, stressed out Christians who don't want to just survive and instead want to thrive. I'm Liz Frerichs, and this is my insane husband, Evan.
Every couple of weeks you got to throw that in. Good morning.
Well, it's because every couple of weeks you decide it would be hysterical to see how hard you have to try to make me laugh in the middle of doing the intro.
Yeah, throw in some stage direction. Some reassuring thumbs up. Yeah, that's what makes the marriage work, people.
If you haven't given your wife a thumbs up in the last week.
Yeah.
So, happy Monday, everybody. I'm excited. Mondays. I love Mondays.
Yeah.
The whole week is stretching out in front of us. And we can unfurl our wings like butterflies ready to soar.
Trekking right along here into 2018.
Lots of opportunity to say, ooh, do I need to change anything about how this year is going? And if you do, our free class is still up and running for the rest of this week.
Yeah.
And our registration for the paid class, if you want to learn how to do tapping, if you want somebody to actually walk you through the Sacred Six, how to set goals and make sure your goals are aligned with the things that are important to you, so you're not just kind of floundering along.
Or guessing what a good goal might be.
Right.
Yeah, goals that are in line with our mission and our values.
And if you want to work on adding a Sabbath to your life, practicalities and the whys, we're covering all that in the paid class. Registration closes on Friday, so if you want to get in now.
Yeah, we'd love to have you there. And that actually kind of leads into what we're talking about today. Having a self-examination system that's perpetual, but not so complicated that we never actually do it, and not a burden. Well, so one of the problems is, like, we say, self-examine life, we got to do it, and then we self-examine and we find a thing that we want to work on, and then it's like, okay,
there's 80 million different ways to work on this.
Right, what are my options? Or it's just like, I'm just going to brainstorm about this, and maybe I'll pray about it and talk to my friends about it. I'm going to do all this stuff, dancing all around actually doing the thing that, or something that might solve the problem, but never actually like get in there. Just going to plan.
Take any action.
Right. Because that involves risk and vulnerability usually. It's way easier to just map out issues and be like, yeah, that sure is a problem. And I could do 100 things about it.
Yep. And here are the top 100. So, in case you couldn't figure out from listening to that, we're talking about simplicity this week. This is the last of the Dr. May principles out of his book, Addiction and Grace. As you guys know, we work our way through the CSCs. They are adaptations of Peter Ralston's Tai Chi principles that have really made the difference between surviving and thriving for us. Being calm, surrendered, centered, connected, and complete. And the show is set up as a reminder. Just a daily, like, hey, this is still important. Hey, I still need to do this. Not necessarily like, hey, I learned 85 new things today.
Yeah. And it's one of our systems that is part of our routine now. It's something that we build into our life. I mean, making the show, but also before we had the show, abiding in the principles as best we could. And like,
well, yeah, they're so easy that you can just run through them. Right. I know whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm like, am I calm? Oh, no. Okay, well, am I surrendered? Oh, no, I'm not that either. Am I centered? No. Like I go through and figure out where the problem is. And it's a pretty simple, did you hear that? Simple, simplicity.
Yeah.
Pretty simple system to just run through in, 2 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. And the little things you can do to get calm or surrendered again, they can be pretty involved, but then also the first step's usually take a breath.
Yeah. So since it's Monday, we're going to talk about calm, and we're going to talk about this last principle, simplicity.
Oh, well, I think the main thing, the thing I was saying is sometimes we know we got to do something, and then we start to make it way harder than it has to be to actually do, to make some progress. We think it has to be somebody's patented system that comes with, a book and a workbook and a bracelet and a charm, and like we can buy, because people, I mean, I guess, there's lots of solutions out there.
Right.
And we want to, in the CSCs, move towards the actually effective ones.
Right. Well, and I think part of the problem, at least for me, is, and maybe this is just a type 4 problem, but I want to have 100% mapped out.
Sure.
Like, I want to know what the system is going to look like 10 years from now. Like,
Well, how often do you get that though?
well, I mean, I'm saying that's why it sometimes gets me stuck, because I'm like, okay, I want to know every single facet and I want to know how to apply it in every single way. And, I think we forget the 80-20 rule, that 80% of the work takes 20% of the time, and the last 20% of the time takes 80% of the time.
Yeah.
And there are times when it's important to go ahead and do that 100% of the work. But a lot of the time, we can totally get by with 80% of the work. We don't have to know 100% of how the system is going to work before we take a step.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I would say we're probably never going to know with certainty, but if we move forward in our faith and we get into a routine of self-examination, we're able to, on the fly, well, not on the fly, but I mean, still with planning and precision, change things as we go and modify the plan.
Right. Well, and that's what, like we talked about last week with the Tai Chi walk, where you have all of your weight in one foot and the other foot is relaxed, but it's sitting on the floor. But because it's relaxed and it's not holding any of your weight, you can move it wherever. Mm-hmm. So, and I've had this happen. So if you step on something that's slippery, you're like testing with that empty foot and you go, ooh, that's a slippery patch. So you don't put your weight there.
Yeah, you still got your foot on the part where you can grip.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to have with our self-examination systems. We want to have systems where we can say, midway through, is this working? Is this not working? Oh, okay, let's be flexible. And the reality is life changes. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we know this intimately well. I tell people that having an autoimmune disease means that you give up spontaneity for a different kind of spontaneity. Instead of spontaneously going to the zoo,
right,
I spontaneously, was like, there were various times where it was like, oh, and now spontaneously I'm going to need to use the wheelchair today.
Sure. So exciting.
Or spontaneously, we're going to cancel our plans for hanging out with you guys because I don't feel up to it. So there's a lot of redirecting and making a new plan because life isn't static. Life isn't mapped out. And sometimes things happen that just completely railroad your entire whatever you were planning to do.
Yeah. And I think that's why we need a simple but flexible kind of a structure. I mean, this is kind of a scaffolding or a structure, and it's, it's based on the CSCs. It's based on these 5 Dr. May principles where we're just being intentional. I mean, that's a huge foundation for it. And examining what's going on, and through our faith, actually trying to keep doing stuff and keep trying stuff. I think we got caught up we did too much brainstorming before we started this podcast. It took a really long time to actually start posting episodes because we were struggling with that.
Yeah.
The me part of we, maybe more than the you part of we, but, just the unknown of like, well, once we start, what if we miss an upload or, and that's not even, I mean, we haven't yet. I'm really thankful, but it's like, is that really what I'm worried about? Or am I just like, it's just, I've never done it before. So,
it's a little scary.
I kind of did that thing where I was like, well, I don't know exactly how it all works. And then eventually we just had to start doing it. And then each new thing, like putting this class out was the most recent one. But when back in the summer, we were building our webpage for the first time. And it's just like, thought we were, good enough to get started on it. And then it took weeks and weeks still. Once you get into it, your process evolves. Yeah, because you learn things you didn't know before. With the mind of simplicity and faith, it's like, okay, here's some new information. I can absorb that, and I can deal with it in God's grace. If we have to have 100% ahead of the time, that means you got to have all the information ahead of the time, and that's never going to happen.
Well, and I think 90% of the time we know what our first step is.
Right, and we can, and we could probably just go ahead and do that.
Right, yeah, we can go ahead and do whatever that first thing is, and then, try and see what the next step is. I think a lot of the time we don't even know what the next step is until after we take the first step.
Yeah,
we're just scared, and so then we go into overcomplication mode. And
right, and that's why we need our friends and our family. Like, you and I maybe are struggling with the like, we'll just start taking some more steps. And some people, though, would just jump in head first, and they haven't planned at all.
Right.
And so we've got to have teams of people that are good at both things.
Right.
And that could be a really effective team. It kind of might drive each people crazy. Like the guy who wants to do everything yesterday and the guy who's like, let's do this. Let's shoot for next week to actually launch. And they're going to be butting heads all the time. But that can actually be a really good energy too.
I think another area, which we might end up talking about this on Thursday, but I think another area that we get stuck is the imaginary conversations land.
Yeah, that's a bad place to be.
Where it's like, instead of actually having the conversation with the person, try and play it out a million different ways so you can make it work the exact way you want it to.
So you know just what to say, right?
Right, yeah.
But we don't know what they're going to say. And so,
right.
I mean, all you can plan is maybe your opening line.
Pretty much.
And even when I get stuck there, my opening line never comes out just the way. So yeah, that I think is a good opportunity to just be like, I'm just going to go talk to them.
Right. I think that's kind of the point of all of this. You know, we often, if you know what your first step is, take it.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of just have to like, be like Nike, just do it.
Yeah. And what's more simple, sitting here and writing out an entire script of how the conversation's going to go, or just going and engaging in your relationship with that person?
Right. Yeah, we want to just take one. I think sometimes we get so caught up in like I have to know what to do for this whole conversation that we forget that a conversation is
two people
line at a time, you know, two people involved. It's just like taking steps. Whatever project you're on, whatever conversation you're having, it can be broken up into little pieces. And we don't have to know the entire thing in order to take one step.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot wrapped up in that, you know. I was just thinking that you're kind of taking away some of their dignity, too. You're like, I'm going to predict everything you say. I don't really need to have this conversation with you because I already did it in my mind, where they're a person and they are going to be unpredictable, and that's dynamic and good.
Yeah.
We'll get into it more as the week goes on.
Yep. All right. Well, hopefully this gives you guys something to think about. I know I need to be reminded sometimes to just take that first step. So whatever you're doing this week, take your step.
Punch the gas a little bit.
We love you guys, and we're praying for you. Thanks to everybody that's been sharing the show and listening to the show. We really appreciate it. If you have found this podcast helpful, please do continue to share it. You can join our Facebook group or subscribe to our email list so that you get regular reminders of what is actually going on with the podcast. And yeah, have an awesome Monday. You don't need to have the Monday blues. Have the Monday opportunity high.
That's right. like some of us. It's fun to watch. And I'm sure it's fun to participate in too. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Bye.